Oh, Mrs. Garcia, you're a school counselor and new homeowner and grad student. You're an Ander. National University supports the whole you, so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at nu.edu.
This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin hour number 2, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross here, Circus Sports, Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. He's our closer, Jensen Lewis, back home in the land. You said it's going to be warm in Cleveland today?
Yeah, we got low to mid 70s. It's going to be a little windy, but not as windy as it's going to be at the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. If you ever wanted to blindly bet an over, today is the day. Calling for gusts upwards of 23 to 25 miles an hour blowing out, Dave. So get ready if you're in the bleacher. If you're a bleacher creature there at Wrigley Field today, you better keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, it's coming out there. Those are fun games to go to in Wrigley if you've never been, people. Check when the wind's blowing out. It's a beautiful day at the ballpark because it's going to be warm normally, and you're going to get a lot of runs. That total sitting at 11 right now for the Cubs today at home. Hour number 2, it is time for our highlights and headlines.
Help your bottom line with today's highlights and headlines.
It is the week after Augusta National. They're playing an elevated event here on the PGA Tour, and it's down there at RBC Heritage in South Carolina, Hilton Head. And Justin Thomas went nuclear yesterday in round number 1. So Scotty Scheffler, they're out there. I think Scotty is a hole ahead. And Scotty looks like he's going to burn this course up. He's 6 under through 10. Justin Thomas makes a bogey on 10 and then proceeds to go absolutely nuts getting into the house, ties the course record with a 61 at the first round. This is a par 71 course. So he shoots 10 under 61. And Jensen on that famed 18th hole that they have there, it's a beautiful hole. You got all the water to the left and the marsh in the front. Sticks the drive, and then on his approach, he says, be right. It is within 6 feet. He's got a 6-footer for the course record all by himself, and that's the one he misses? So He has, if you could ever be disappointed with shooting a course record or tying it at 61, I think JT is. He's 3 shots clear here of Russell Henley and Scotty Scheffler in this elevated event going into round 2. He's now moved into second place in the betting odds. Scotty is the favorite still with his 7 under par. But JT, I mean, we know the kid can go low. This is as low as they've ever gone on this golf course.
All right, so he's plus 230 right now to win. He's not even the betting favorite. That's Scotty at plus 190. How about that? He's 3 shots clear of Scotty. He's still not the betting favorite. Scotty plus $1.90 at this point. If you had it, and for people that are DraftKings customers, they give a daily RBC Heritage profit boost to use on any market. Anyone after watching yesterday, Dave, that stands out to you? It could be a placement market, it could be an outright. Anyone you feel really good? By the way, I did mention Jordan Spieth yesterday, who I thought looked really good. Russell Henley also looked amazing. The big Swedes at 35-1, Colin Morikawa at 35-1, our guy Patrick Cantlay 25-1. Still pretty crowded considering where everyone finished yesterday.
Yeah, most of those guys we're talking about there, when you get in those double digits, you're looking at 2 under pars for guys like Colin and the big Swede. You know, I watched a lot of Xander Schauffele's round yesterday, and this is, again, a guy that won 2 majors last year. And then he had the injury there where he couldn't even swing a golf club for a while. So that's why he hasn't been on any of my cards. He's still not on my card. But I'll tell you this, watching his round yesterday, Jensen, he's getting closer. He's getting closer to being, arguably you could have said last year clearly, the foil to Scotty Scheffler. The second best player in the world was not Rory McIlroy. It was Xander Schauffele who won 2 majors last year. So I would just say, is he ready to win at 40-1 here? I might look at Schauffele top 5 at 4-1 price here, even though he didn't make anything yesterday and still finished under par. That's a guy I might hitch my wagons to going forward for the next 3 days. Look at Xander at 4-1. And I'll say this, too, about Scotty. You know, he gets off that torrid start, 6 under through 10. He doesn't make anything coming in. The ball striking is still there. Justin Thomas, with that 61, now has more rounds this calendar year than anybody else on the PGA Tour at 62 or less with that 61 yesterday. Not Scotty, not Rory. it's JT. So when you want a guy to go low for a day, JT is your guy. That's the guy that can do it. Now, consistency, can he keep it there? Of course he can. And I know Kelly Bidwin was talking about it yesterday. Could have had an odds boost out here at William Hill. He was 24-1 to win this tournament before yesterday in that odds boost. And I thought about it, Jensen, and I went, can he do it for 4 days? I'm not sure. So I understand why Scottie Scheffler is still the betting favorite here, plus $1.90. That's been cut more than in half with his 7 under par. You know, he's got one guy to beat. That's JT. I think I'd still rather be sitting with a Scottie Scheffler ticket, but JT lights out yesterday. It wasn't the only, can you believe this, setting a course record on the same day on the PGA Tour. And you're, well, how can that be? They're playing this event here at Hilton Head. They've got one going on at Punta Cana as well. And how about the bucket hat? The power of Joel Damon. Remember, split events here, because if you don't qualify for the elevated event, because they've kind of mirrored Live Golf now with these elevated events here in the PGA Tour, they play a secondary one. And this is down there at the Punta Cana Championship. And Joel Damon goes crazy with the bucket hat. That's a par 72 course. He goes 10 under as well, just like JT did to shoot that 62. And he came off in the afternoon wave, and I thought our guy Keith Mitchell was going to, Cashmere Keith, there he goes again, first round lead. That's what he does. And out of nowhere comes Joel Damon, who led by just 2 shots here. He started off the day 8 shots back before he ever teed off with those leaders at 8 under par. And then Joel goes out and shoots 10 under. And he talked about it, Jensen. He said it's tough to do. He goes, when you see guys and you're in the afternoon wave and you see guys like, Keith Mitchell shoot at 8 under, he goes, normally the mental state is not good. It's like, man, I'm already 8 back. And he said he kind of tabled that for a day and said, wait a minute. If those guys can go out and go low, so can I. Did he ever? Course record 62. You don't see that every day in the PGA Tour. 2 course records tied and broken on the same day.
And Joel Damon already 1 under through 2 here as he has moved his lead up to 2 here, 11 under par. So plus 330 if you want to take him right now live to win the whole thing, Cashmere Keith at plus $5. So, yeah, interesting to see some of these lower scores. No hangovers for some of these guys. But also now moving forward, you look at guys, too, from a schedule standpoint, you get this right after the Masters and then just kind of getting yourself ready. The Byron Nelson is usually that next one where you get a lot of guys that jump in and are like, okay, we want to get ready. Truist Championship, next elevated event there, too, as well. So a couple of these maybe lesser named guys as far as tour wins off to great starts there at Punta Cana.
We talked about it a couple months ago when Joe Highsmith went out there on tour in the bucket hat, and we're like, is there power in the bucket hat? I saw Max Homa was going to the bucket hat. At least it was on the practice range. I wonder if these guys are so superstitious they're seeing success with other guys in bucket hats. This is a baseball guy. Like, creatures of habit, but sometimes you go, man, if that torpedo bat's working, give me that thing. I wonder if we're going to see more guys wearing bucket hats now.
It will be Joel Damon's had it. So, kind of the guy that's done it. It's been there. It's his shtick. Highsmith, same way. So, if Rory wore a bucket hat to win the Masters, I think you'd see a proliferation of it. Yep.
I used to wear a bucket hat back when I wore a younger man's clothes. I was playing some of the best golf in my life. Coincidence? I think not. Let's get to some of these NBA plays. We talked about it with Thomas Gable in the last segment here as we have the play-in scenarios tonight. You've got some plays in pocket deeper down the board here for the futures market in the NBA. But tonight, anything that you have on the docket, are you going to wait for these things to formalize and then go ahead and look at those future plays that you have?
Yeah, right now, the lean from me tonight would be the under 221 in the Mavs and the Grizzlies game. And so kind of see a little bit later today if some money has moved either of these games, whether it be the side or the total. But you did mention some of the futures, and just kind of want to revisit what I've had in pocket thus far. So in the NBA, I did have, I think this was the 3rd week into the season, Dave. I just threw in, and this might be a little biased coming out as a Cleveland fan. Thunder and Cavs were both leading their conferences respectively. That was at 35-1 for the exact matchup. And then I did have Thunder pre-flop at 9-1 to win the title. So those feel pretty good about it. Not going to lie. Wow. So I also did some digging on DraftKings of some exacta matchups and kind of did a favorite, maybe a value and a dark horse. So the favorites are not going to shock anybody here. Celtics, Cavs, plus $1.75. Thunder, Lakers, plus 240. If some chaos ensues here, Dave, especially in the East, because I think we all believe it's a pretty big 2-horse race. If the Knicks somehow are able to get past the Pistons and are able to put up a fight against the Celtics, I don't think the Magic are going to really have a lot of resistance for Boston. The Pacers are kind of that team, and I know a lot of our experts here on the channel talked about if there was a team you were going to circle. Now this means the Pacers got to get past the Bucks. If any team in the second round might give Cleveland a run for the money, it could be Indiana. So that's why I kind of threw in Knicks Pacers at 25-1 if you want a little long shot Eastern Conference final matchup.
Let me just say this. You've got a 9-1 ticket on OKC to win the NBA title. They are now plus $1.65.
Wow.
So think about the value you already have in that ticket. And what's not to love about that exacta bet? Just get to the finals at 35-1 for OKC and Cleveland. Okay, if you get those two teams in their respective finals, will you be looking to hedge at all? Or you go, man, this ticket, I made it for a reason, and there's no reason to doubt it now.
Yeah, I think I got to stay with it. I love my Cavs. I got to stay with it, let it ride. Let's see what happens. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
If the Cavs lose, I win money. If the Cavs win, we win the title. Done.
That is fantastic. You want to bet smarter with smarter insights right now? Check out VSiN.com each and every day. When you do so, VSiN.com/subscribe, you can get our summer special for just $59. That's going to cover you all the way through August 1st. When you go on to the website, like today, Hoops Peterson, not just hoops. Major League Baseball best bets. RBC staff best bets for the NBA playoffs. How about that? Nigel Seeley's got his Premier League picks there. We're going to talk some soccer later on in this program. Billy Body's going to be right here on set. Zachary Cohen's got you covered with his NBA best bets and player props. Steve Mackinnon, his trends and system for Major League Baseball. And Berkey has got his Major League Baseball picks. Check it out, VSiN.com/subscribe. $59 all the way through August 1st.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, you're a school counselor and new homeowner and grad student. You're an ander. National University supports the whole you, so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at nu.edu.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
Continuing VSiN By The Books on this Friday edition, we're going to have Billy Body join us in studio. It'll be a lot of fun to have Billy here. And JD is going to join us from California talking some puck. That's all coming up in hour number 3. When Billy's coming over from the big pond, to join us here today. Jensen, when you came out to Vegas, and it depends on how long you're in town, are you one of those guys that stays on the East Coast time zone? Or you're like, no, let me switch the watch, switch the clocks, get acclimated, and then when I go back east, I just have to be a big boy about this thing and reacclimate myself.
No, we again just for the wake up call time, buddy. We got to stay on East Coast time, otherwise it'd be real rough. It's so funny getting in bed around 6 or 7 o'clock. And when I'm out there, and you've got that's the nice part about the betting side is that I can put my bets in and just go to bed. Now,
right.
On the East Coast, you think you do the same thing. You stay up late for the West Coast game at 10 o'clock, put them in, go to bed, see if you won when you wake up. Got to stay in the same body clock for sure. Routine. And then Friday, no alarm clock once we're waking up on Saturday. We're good to go.
It's the best part. Going home in a couple weeks to Virginia Beach. Mom, Dad can't wait to get home. And already coordinating breakfast with the friends. Because, you get a little bit older. It's like, do you really want to go to the bar as we would go to Tautog's back in our younger man's days? No, I'm going to try to stay. I don't know. Do I stay in West Coast time now? It's going to be bizarre for the body clock back home for a week in the East Coast, but I cannot wait. Let's go to the Central time zone here as we continue our talk of the NFL draft. Indianapolis, are they East? I believe that they're like Chicago time, aren't they? Or they might be East Coast time. One of those sneaky ones there in Indy. So when we look at their draft, and again, we're going to break down 4 teams today. This will be the second of our 4 here. This is a team that at quarterback with Anthony Richardson, I just don't know. And it feels like the books don't know either. Their win total sitting right at 7.5, but even juice, $1.10 either way. To win the South, plus 330, not really a long shot, kind of right there in the mix. If somebody's going to usurp Houston, maybe it's Indianapolis. Long shot to win the conference at 60-1. We get that. You look at the needs that they have. You see tight end, offensive line, linebacker, edge, and running back. When you're drafting at 14, I guess the question is, Jensen, again, are we building around Anthony Richardson? Or if we don't know that Anthony Richardson's going to be the guy, I got to look at the other 52 and not just the one.
Got to look at the other 52. And Colston Loveland, I know, is a tight end guy. You talk about trying to help Anthony Richardson out. We've said this a lot about Tyler Warren and what he could do for Caleb Williams in Chicago. If indeed maybe the Carolina Panthers were to pop him at 8, what he could do for Bryce Young. But yeah, I think that's obviously a position of need is tight end. Edge rusher too, I know, has been one to look at. Perhaps like a James Pierce out of Tennessee, Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. Could definitely be guys. And again, we always workshop this about it's within the division. So trying to limit C.J. Stroud in Houston, trying to limit Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, and also thinking too when you've got Jonathan Taylor in the backfield here playing a little ball control and trying to take maybe a couple of decisions away from an Anthony Richardson if indeed he's the guy. I don't know if Will Campbell ends up falling there, but always can use an impact offensive lineman, no question about that. I don't think Armin Membu gets past the top 10, but those initially would be the places you look. And then I'll throw Kelvin Banks Jr. in there as far as a tackle goes. I know that he has even been mocked, Dave, right to Miami in the pick in front of Indianapolis there at 13. So a lot of different ways to go, but certainly tight end and edge rusher would be the priorities for me.
Eastern time zone. They're the same time as you. They're in Indianapolis. So they are not getting up any earlier or later. By the way, they're the only team in the draft with all of their original 7 draft picks. So there's been no movement. That's interesting, too, to note that they're the only team that hasn't traded out, swapped a pick. They've got all 7 of their picks where they're supposed to be slotted here. So no changes to this draft board, which shows that maybe they won't have the propensity to trade up or down. Now, maybe they could shock us all, but we see no movement so far, 1 through 7 here for this pick. If you go to DraftKings and you go to Indianapolis and their propensity who they might pick with this first pick in the first round of 14, tight end is basically even money. And that is interesting because I always think about it correlated, like you look at Jaden Daniels in D.C. Who is the security blanket? I know we look at Scary Terry, but it's really Zach Ertz. Right? There would be games where Zach Ertz would get 12 balls thrown his way. Is that the idea here and why it's correlated to even money? And yes, offensive lineman is the second betting choice here at over $2. Safety would be the third betting choice. But it's like, man, we got to help AR. And if it's going to be a security blanket of a tight end, then that's probably what we're going to draft at 14.
I think it's even if it's not AR, right? If it's Daniel Jones, you got to have a reliability factor there. And all credit to Drew Ogletree. I'm not sure he's the answer immediately there. Colston Loveland looks a hell of a lot more attractive, or at least a tight end of that caliber. So if you do that, also allows a little bit more one-on-one with a Michael Pittman Jr. And a Josh Downs headed downfield, literally and figuratively. Who knew that could be a piece that just unlocks a lot of potential, right? Because you've seen defenses just kind of scheme, knowing that Richardson has had a lot of trouble throwing the ball downfield. We thought about auto bets last year. Auto bet to throw an interception. Anthony Richardson was in there. Of course, Jameis Winston. I mean, that was upwards of almost $2.50 in some cases in some games that he was quarterbacking the Browns. So ball control is huge. What's a great way to do that? Limit the mistakes downfield by getting a tight end you can rely upon.
Fascinating. I'm looking at this because Loveland right now to be the first tight end is plus $5 because we get it looks like Tyler Warren out of Penn State would be that guy. When you go to DraftKings and I'm going, I wonder if I can get in on the tight end market. I can't. You know why? Not listed. So again, we just talked about it with Thomas Gable in the last hour. They're going to limit certain markets. They're not going to make everything that you would think. It's not full menus here. So they have total wide receivers selected in the first round. That's sitting at 2.5, which is very low traditionally for a first round in the NFL draft. That's juiced heavily to the over, by the way, 250. Total running backs is over 2.5, juiced to the under at minus 210. Quarterbacks selected. We talked a lot about this. Minus 450 to get that over 2.5. The point being is an offensive lineman, 6.5. You can go total offensive players, and that would then encompass the tight end position if that's what we feel like the Colts are going to do here, to be the second tight end taken off the board. Total offensive players drafted in the first round. How about this? 15.5. Remember, 32 teams. And it's basically plus $1.05 to the over, minus $1.35 to the under. That's as close in the marketplace as any of the individual ones are all pretty juiced one way or the other. That's the one that's closest at plus $1.05. So could we get a run on tight ends and get 3 tight ends in the first round? Because it feels like we're going to get at least 2.
Yeah, that would be the prevailing sentiment. By the way, just seeing a great friend of the program, Diana Rossini, about an hour ago, saying, from conversations I'm having, the Giants do not appear to be a house divided as they plow ahead with what remains of their draft process. But I don't get the sense that these latest quarterback workout developments mean New York is eyeing one at number 3. So from someone who's as plugged in as it gets, just thinking about the markets overall of that exacta there of where the Giants pick at 3, Diana Rossini reporting just about an hour ago that she does not get the sense that Joe Schoen and company are looking for a quarterback at number 3.
Be drafted in the top 5. And again, what Diana's getting at is what we've been getting at here all week. Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur is 3-1 plus $3 to be drafted in the top 5. You've got him under 9.5, right? That's your ticket?
Yep.
On Shedeur?
Under 8.5.
Under 8.5.
Yep.
So you've got some outs because, again, depending on what the Giants and or Cleveland potentially could do, there does feel like there's a lot of smoke there, and Diana's getting to that maybe now we're backing off a little bit. Although, as we discussed earlier in the program, other people at the Four Letter Network do believe that the Giants could be in play for Shedeur. So take it all with a grain of salt here. But back to the tight ends momentarily. To be drafted in the top 5, Tyler Warren would be 18-1. So we don't see that scenario playing out. More like a top 10 is normally where you see Tyler Warren about 9.5. And again, if the Colts are sitting there at 14, looking at a tight end, I don't think Warren's going to be dropping to 14. So if they want that guy, they'd probably have to move up in the draft. But again, as we pointed out, they haven't made any moves so far. 1 through 7, all of their original picks are still there for Indianapolis. If you want to bet the ponies, we got the Colts. How about the horses? You can bet those too. VSiN at the Track. The road to the Kentucky Derby is live today. New program we have every Friday leading up to the Triple Crown. So you got key Derby prep races this weekend. Going to break down the top contenders for this year's Run of the Roses. Our experts, Mike Somich, Aaron Halterman. Today, 2:10 p.m. Eastern on the VSiN YouTube channel. At VSiN Live, you're going to get those expert analysis and insights. Don't miss it. VSiN at the Track, streaming live, 2:10 p.m. Eastern as we count down to the Triple Crown. Cannot wait for that as we do each and every year. When we come back, is it news? Is it noise? That is next when you come back with us right here, Friday edition of VSiN By The Books.
VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back. VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis here. Going to continue the NFL draft in the next segment. Break down the ATL. What's going to happen with the Dirty Birds, with the Falcons. Of course, talk some more baseball in hour number 3. Going to have Billy Body join us to talk some soccer. JD, Jonathan Davis, to talk about the second season in the NHL. But right now, Jensen, we got to figure it out. Is it news or a whole lot of noise?
Is it news?
Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news immediately.
Or just noise?
Are you going to act like this is news? Just noise. This is noise.
Let's separate the impactful from the insignificant with one simple question. News or noise?
Get out there and sell, sell, sell. That's what Andrew Berry. Turn those machines back on. That's what it sounds like Andrew Berry might be doing here as the GM of the Browns, talking about Travis Hunter and comparing him to one Shohei Ohtani. And I quote, "It's a little bit like Ohtani, where he's playing one side, he's an outstanding player. You've obviously got a unicorn if you use him both ways." Jensen Lewis, is that news or just noise?
Yeah, newsflash for Andrew Berry. No one will ever be Shohei Ohtani, so let's go ahead and get that out there. Second of all, how long does Travis Hunter, from a physicality standpoint in the NFL, get a chance to do both sides? And yes, if you're trying to do the apples-to-apples comparison, Shohei has had his injuries, obviously coming off the Tommy John from last year, did not play both ways, at least pitching and hitting, is back to that this year at some point here in the near future. I guess from a speed perspective, I wonder what the toll will be on Travis Hunter trying to do 100 plays in the NFL. Like, you see enough guys that are gassed just from one side of the ball. So if he can play both ways, great. But I don't think he'll have the impact like Shohei has on Major League Baseball that he would on the NFL.
He's minus $8 to be the second overall pick in the draft, Travis Hunter. And that's, of course, is where Cleveland is drafting. Now, I'll say this. I thought that John Harbaugh handled this the best in the draft lead-up. So I get what Andrew's doing there, right? This is going to be our guy. We want him to feel good. And we've heard that Travis has said, I won't play football anymore if I'm not allowed to play both sides, right? That's on record. He said that. So I'm sure that Andrew Berry's trying to, let's appease him. And I thought that John handled it the best way with the Ravens. The Ravens are not going to have Travis Hunter on their football team. And John said, don't tell him he can't do it. Don't be the guy that says he can't do it. He can't do it, but don't tell him he can't do it. And I thought it was the perfect way to go. Let him believe what he wants to believe. And then when you get out there and you try to do it at this level, this isn't college football. And they talk about the speed of the game, and Harbaugh knows that he cannot do it. Travis doesn't know that he can't do it. So I kind of like that idea. Like, if you're Andrew Berry, I feel it's like, yeah, I get it. You've got your idea of what you're going to do here. When you get here, we'll rethink those ideas. I think that's why he's putting this out there. Like, hey, maybe he's the next Shohei. He's not. Maybe he thinks he can do these things. He can't. But you got to let the kid believe what he wants to believe, right?
I think you have to let him go out there, and whether it is in camp and you give him the opportunity to have to experience what it would be like. Again, then you have that plausible deniability and say, we didn't tell you couldn't do it.
There you go.
But look at the film. I mean, if you want to do this, we as a team, I got to think about the 53, okay? And you can't be doing this in the fourth quarter. We get burned on a touchdown because you want to play cornerback after you've run, 41 routes already. So I think that's a great way to table it for sure.
I just remember as a young kid, maybe 10, I wanted to be like Carlton Fisk. I was watching the commercials and dipped some tobacco. So my dad said, "Oh, you want to do that?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Great, come on, go ahead." Went right ahead, put that little Copenhagen in. I didn't want to do Copenhagen anymore. It didn't work out. So I hope it works out for Travis Hunter, but I have a feeling it won't. There is a new rule now in college football, and I wonder if this is news or noise. Let's tell you about the rule. This new rule is going to be designated to combat faking injuries. How are they going to do this, Jensen? Well, here is the letter of the law. Under the new rule, if medical personnel are forced to enter the field of play to evaluate an injured player after the ball has already been spotted by the officials, the player's team will be charged a timeout. If they don't have a timeout, it's going to be a 5-yard delay of game penalty, and that'll be enforced. Is this news or noise?
All right, so this will be a little bit of news from a standpoint of, I mean, you think about the high-octane offenses, teams that want to go fast. I think in Tennessee right away, how Josh Heupel wants to run his offense. But I also think about some strategy and where the analytics people will get involved here and say, okay, if you don't have the timeout, you'd rather be able to take the 5-yard delay if it doesn't result in a first down or put a team into field goal range. You see what I'm going here?
Yeah.
Like, I get what they're doing, and I appreciate that because I know there's way too many instances where guys have been coached up to be like, hey, just go down and do your best acting job. So I like that they're trying to combat it. But I know there's going to be loopholes here where teams will figure it out. If they don't have timeouts, all right, it's probably better to get that fake timeout with the 5-yard delay a game because it still doesn't really hurt us, but we really need to catch our breath. We really need to get the right personnel in there to be able to stop this offense.
We've seen both examples, right? Where guys, all of a sudden, a team's going no huddle, and you can't slow them down. They're rushing up to the line, and then you see the coaches go down. Right, and all of a sudden, kid goes down like he's shot out of a cannon, and all of a sudden, he's faking it. So I get the idea of this rule. But the other side of that, Jensen, and this is the part that kind of sucks, kids do get hurt. Yeah. And sometimes they do get up and they try to go on and they can't. So under that same example where a team's going fast to the line and the ball's already been spotted and then the kid does go down and he really is hurt, you're going to get charged for that. So there is, to your point, kind of a loophole here. And I don't know what the right answer is. I like the idea that they're trying to address it. But do you think this solves it once and for all?
Probably not, because we got to see it in action and we got to see what is deemed, because you're going to have coaches where, like, hey, trainers, you if you're not attending to players in the sideline, you better find me first before you step foot on that field.
Right.
Okay, because I don't need to burn a timeout that I'll need. Again, I can see where this is quote unquote practiced. Okay, in the summer, like, all right, here's what happens. Here's how we're going to do it so that we don't get a cheap timeout that ultimately I'm going to need later in the game.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I do see both sides of this argument, if you will. And again, I'm old. I can go back to the K-gun offense with Jim Kelly back in the late 80s and the 90s, and nobody had seen that, and teams didn't know what to do. So literally guys would just fall down. And you hear the boos, right, because the Bills knew what the other teams were doing. The collegiate level, it feels like the game is so fast-paced anyway, or faster-paced. That's going to be an interesting rule change to see how the Zebras enact that. And again, you're going to have some teams going, come on, man, my kid's really hurt. And other times they're going to be like, we're kind of faking a hammy there a little bit. We do have some golf that's underway. That second round has already begun here. Elevated event here at the RBC Heritage going on down south. And again, we talked about it now. Scotty Scheffler's already been cut in half from his pre-tournament lead. And he's down to plus $1.90 now in the betting markets. Justin Thomas with that great round yesterday at 10 under par. Those guys will go off semi-late today, because those guys were out early yesterday. Jensen, it did seem like if you went off earlier yesterday, like JT, Russell Henley, Scotty Scheffler, those guys at 7 under, and 10 under for JT, they got the better end of that draw. So conversely, if the weather pattern stays today and the winds come up in the afternoon like they did yesterday, they might get the rougher end of the draw. I'm not saying that I'd want to have one of these longer numbers, but you do see we only have 3 guys right now, Russell Henley, those guys at 7, 7, and 10 at single digits. Everybody else is in the 20s. Would you look to a flyer play to add, or if you got one of those 3, sit back and enjoy?
So I would look potentially at a Jordan Spieth. I know it's a little bit farther down the board here at 45-1. I think you're at this point. If you want to play a little bit of the place and markets, the DraftKings we talk about all the time, because they do include ties there. If you want to jump in the top 5, top 10, those do make sense. I think Morikawa is also someone to look at a little bit, just because from an iron perspective, the ball striking and placement, I think he'd be okay. I still go back to our guy, Patrick Cantlay. Yep. Still you can get him at 25-1. It's a course horse, a guy that we've loved. Mentioned that if you are a DraftKings customer, they do offer a 50% boost each day for the RBC. So if you want to take Russell Henley, who's at 9-1, you can get him up to 13.5-1 right now. So plus 13.50. That might be something I jump on here live. But yeah, plenty of ways to go here in round 2 of the RBC.
I think 13 or more on Russell Henley at 7 under par is a good ticket to have in pocket. That guy is a bulldog for a reason, not just a Georgia Bulldog. He's going to be around with those big boys. We already saw him take down Colin Morikawa to win an elevated event earlier this year. Then Colin decided not to speak to the media. The draft, it is very, very near. We're going to be talking more about it when we come back here. But again, if you've not gotten a hold of our summer special, you can still do so right now. Through August 1st, it's just $59, full summer of sharp betting insights at half the regular price. So all you have to do is go to VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, you're a school counselor and new homeowner and grad student. You're an ander. National University supports the whole you, so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at nu.edu.
VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We continue the Friday edition of VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis going to have Billy Body join us in studio. Hopefully, I'm assuming he's here on property. I don't know if he's
better be.
if he's staying at Circa or how that's working, because if we talk about that time difference here, hopefully the body clock is good to go for Billy Body today. And
I see what you did. The body clock.
There it is. Thank you.
I see what you did.
And then JD, Jonathan Davis, is going to talk to the Iceman here in hour number 3 as well as we get ready for the second season in the NHL playoffs. Continuing our draft look here, and love our guy Lou Finicaro just sent me a text during the break. He believes, he's like, hey, if Dion says the kid Travis Hunter can do it, then he's not going to doubt primetime. I will say this. Dion, people forget, did play wide receiver for the Cowboys. Notably, if you go back to the Super Bowl 30, he didn't do it all the time. Now, obviously, kick returner and a great corner, as we all know, maybe the best of all time. But to do it every play is, I think, where the problem's going to come for Travis Hunter. If that's what he believes he's going to be able to do right now, I think that's where the discrepancy comes in for Travis Hunter. But, again, I'm sure they're going to give him the opportunity. Let's see if that's something you really see him in there. 3 downs on offense and 3. That would be wild to see, but I just don't see it happening. We'll see if they can happen, if it happens at Cleveland at the number 2 pick. How about the Falcons? They shocked the draft world last year, this time, by going with Michael Penix Jr. in the top 10 after already giving Kirk Cousins all that guaranteed money to come down to the ATL. A year later, you could make the case that, well, we got the guy for this reason, so that this year we're not worried about drafting a quarterback. We've got our quarterback of the future. Still have Kirk Cousins on the roster, too. Look at the draft picks. It's not a lot. So you're sitting at 15 in round 1, right there, kind of stuck in the middle. Round 2, you had a 46th overall. Then round 4, and then Jensen, you don't draft again until you get 2 in round 7. That shows you what Terry Fontenot has been doing. You've been selling some of that draft equity to get better now. So look at the needs. Defense, edge, D-line, corner, safety, and then O-line. Feels like when you look at that, all right, we should be able to get by with the offense. Obviously, they'd like help on the offensive line. But it feels like the red flag here is, for the team that wears red, it is defense. And they need a lot of it, and they don't have a whole lot of picks to get it done.
I would say that the edge rushers jump off the page, right? We've talked Jalen Walker a lot out of Georgia. And I think a lot predicated on his availability for where the top 10 ultimately falls, and especially that back half of the top 10. I know we talked with John Dago early, his thoughts on where Carolina could potentially go there. I think he did lean more so the defensive side that they would take. So if you look for the rest of the teams, and again, we still will wait and see what New Orleans does at 9. But again, San Francisco probably going to go a little bit more in the secondary. We've surmised that the Cowboys will probably go to the wide receiver room, or they could surprise us all. The Dolphins talked about earlier, they need offensive line help. And then Indianapolis probably going towards that tight end or perhaps somewhere on the defensive side. That brings us to 15. And I think that's Michael Williams is someone that you would target. I talked about James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. I think they will probably have a pretty solid group to choose from. It's just a matter of what they feel would work in that scheme. And you kind of look at, where that defensive line is. They do run a 3-4. And so, another edge rush, a linebacker kind of guy that can get some speed and some pressure. Talking about Baker Mayfield there with Tampa Bay, talking about Bryce Young, more mobile towards the end of last year, thinking about where, that division overall is and also what, you eventually look at, and who quarterbacks in New Orleans. So just from a divisional standpoint and an overall standpoint, that defense has got to get some influx. And as you said, with just those 2 picks that they're probably going to use and not worry about trading, 15 and 46, got to get at least an impact defensive guy, I would think, in round 1.
It is overwhelmingly in the betting market that they're going to draft a D lineman or an edge rusher at minus 225. Whew. You don't see that a whole lot when you get to the positional plays that you can make here. So at 15, at DraftKings right now, over 2-1, that you got to lay that it's going to be a D lineman or an edge. Now, remember this. The second betting option there is linebacker. So that's you're going to go more inside, not edge. So there's could be that discrepancy. Wait, they drafted a linebacker, but is he an edge or is he a traditional, middle type linebacker here? Plus 450 is that. Also with corner at plus 450. So you don't get to the offensive lineman until plus 950 as the fourth betting. Oh, how about that? So that tells you it's defense, and more defense for the ATL.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember Dallas Turner coming out this time last year from Alabama, a lot of people thought he might be the first defensive player taken, and I believe he was, but that was with Minnesota as he kept sliding down the draft board, and that's who everybody thought Atlanta was going to take. It will be interesting. Whoever they take at 15 this year, will that player be better than what Dallas Turner is going to be in year 2 in Minnesota? That's going to be the way you go, man, maybe we did get it right by getting Michael Penix, eschewing the defensive play. I still thought that Dallas Turner would have made the most sense last year. Obviously, they got to the last game of the regular season, had to win it, lost the overtime game to Washington, missed the postseason. But, Jensen, I guess the flip side is if you can deal Kirk, which they say they're not going to do, and get more draft capital, if there's ever a team that could use draft capital, wouldn't that make sense? If you get, even if you don't get the full value of Kirk Cousins, you got to eat some of the contract in the guaranteed money. If you could get picks back now, it's all full steam ahead with Michael Penix. Man, with as limited as they are in this draft, that might not be a bad way to go either.
As long as you're comfortable with Emory Jones being your backup quarterback, so they would have to obviously address that, get a third quarterback in the room, and whether that's at 4 in round 4, I should say, you pick 118 if they still have the pick there. We have seen a lot of. I mean, we were just talking about Kyle McCord yesterday, and where's the value, of some of these other quarterbacks that we've talked about. So let me just throw that idea at you. If indeed it is defense there, round 1, round 2, would you back there at round 4 if they still have the pick? Do we envision, because that's 118, Will Howard, for instance, is mocked in some places at 117 as far as where those picks could go. Quinn Ewers is at 107. Tyler Shuck, who's getting a lot of run, is at 93. Riley Leonard, we talked about, at 140. A little bit more value right there if you're looking for a young guy yet again, and I realize this will be year 1 fully starting for Michael Penix Jr., but the defense, first and foremost, got to get someone to pressure the quarterback, and I think that's where they focus with their pick at 15.
No, to me, they've got to go defense 1, 2, and 4 as they stand right now. I can't see this team drafting a quarterback now. Like, to me, it's got to be, I would look to move Kirk. Because, again, if I'm dipping into my backups anyway, we're probably already in trouble. That means Michael Penix has been knocked out. So, I've got to go with that. We spent a top 10 pick on the kid. We liked what we saw from him late in the year. He did look the part. So, to me, I got to get something back. And, by the way, we'll figure out how it shakes out with Pittsburgh. We'll see how it shakes out maybe, with the Jets and Justin Fields. But there could be a value for Kirk Cousins now, maybe in Cleveland again, as we've heard some of those tentacles there, that if people still want to go get a veteran quarterback, he might be the best of the bunch that's still out there. Yes, he's under contract now with the ATL, but if they can recover draft picks for Kirk, I do think that makes a lot of sense. And it also says we're not going to double down on our mistake. We didn't have to pay Kirk Cousins that kind of money if we knew we were going to draft Michael Penix Jr. So that was the mistake they made, obviously, this time last year, by giving all of that guaranteed money to a guy that they don't want to play the position now. So instead of, square peg, round hole, you kind of make amends by that by moving him 4 picks that you could really use, whether it's 3rd round, whether it's 4th round, whether it's 5th round. Those could be really valuable picks here for the Falcons, especially defensively. That's the way I think they have to go now. But again, can you get fair market value now? Because other teams know you want to trade Kirk Cousins now because you got Michael Penix Jr. So that'll be the trick for Terry Fontenot. If he can make a move like that, to me, that would make the most sense for the ATL this year. If you haven't checked out Edge Boost, you got to check it out. It's a first ever bank account built just for bettors. It ensures all of your gambling transactions are always going to be approved. No usage fees, no minimums. Earn cashback rewards, 100% approval for all betting deposits. You can sign up today at edgeboost.bet. Use promo code BOOK, title of the show. Deposit $25. Edge Boost is going to match that deposit. That's edgeboost.bet. use that promo code BOOK. We have got a big hour 3. Billy Body's going to join us in studio, talk some soccer, and also why Billy has come all the way across the big pond here to get to Las Vegas. We'll discuss that. JD, Jonathan Davis, is going to help us break down the second season in the NHL. And I know, Jensen, you've already got some futures plays in for the NHL, correct?
Looking forward to picking JD's brain, and I can't even believe my Washington Capitals at 35-1 is alive and well here. But here we are. This is beautiful, man. Can't wait to see what he's got for me as well.
And we'll continue our NFL draft as we break down the Cardinals as well. That's hour number 3. Straight ahead, VSiN By The Books.
Oh, Mrs. Garcia, how do you balance it all? You're a school counselor and new homeowner, a mother of 2, and grad student. You're an ander. At National University, we see the whole you. That's why we're dedicated to your professional growth through faculty mentorships and career support, so you can focus on what matters most. National University, supporting the whole you. Learn more at nu.edu.